The parent liaison meeting is happening 6:30 before our next board meeting, so that's over at Hillside. And then we are having a public hearing on our code of conduct, which has been posted on our website. And so you can check that out there, right, Janine? People can access that there. And then we have our regular Board of Ed meeting. So next up are highlights from me. And so it's been a great start to the school year. It's been a very busy start to the school year, but I've had the opportunity to be in all our schools over the last 5 days, spending time connecting with our staff, with our kids, with families as well, informally. So it's been a really great start to the school year. Our kids are really actively engaged, and I think they're having a good start to the school. Parker, would you say? I think so far so good. And just being able to visit classrooms, everyone has been so welcoming and so engaging. Our kids have been really wonderful as well. I've had the opportunity to lunch with some 6th graders last week, some 3rd and 4th graders last week, and today some seniors. And I think the one interesting common theme across all those ages is that not one of them has anything to say about ways that we can get better. They were like, no, we're good. And I think the seniors today really kind of solidified it for me, because there were 3 seniors with very different, so one of them was here from kindergarten, one of them came in 7th grade, and one of them started in 9th grade. And all of them saw such commonalities in the experience. They were like, no, we really like this. We like that our teachers are flexible. We like that we have choices. We have the best principal on the planet. all those things that they were talking. I'm just saying. But they were very, very reflective on that. And what impressed me the most was then we engaged in a conversation about gap year. And they were like, where do you stand on gap years? And can I tell my parents? I was like, listen, you take that up with your parents, but you better have a good argument if you're going to pretend that you want a gap year. But really, really wonderful conversations, and our staff as well, very welcoming. And I've been in chemistry class and English class and social studies classes and K through 4. And in our middle school as well, and it's been a really, really wonderful start. Our fall sports season has kicked off as well, and on Saturday I had the opportunity to be at the football game. Although the end result was not a W for us, it was a very great first half, and our kids played really, really well, and it was a nice audience, and people were excited to be there. They did win the week before that, though. They won their opening game at Croton, and then there are a bunch of other sporting events that have unfolded, and our girls soccer team, I believe, has won the start of their season opener, and then from there are a bunch of other teams as well, but everyone is doing well.
And I will add, we have our fabulous football player, Justin Caraballo.
Oh, this is true. Justin was there. We have they're very good. They have a lot of good team spirit. So that's off to a good start as well. Also, just 2 notes that I don't remember if we shared in any other communication, but Lewis Cooper, who is our technology and engineering teacher here at the middle school, he was granted 2 3D printers from GE grant, and so they're here in our middle school. Really excited about that, and you can read the little blurb there. It's also on our website, so you can see exactly what that looks like, but it's pretty cool to have access to those 3D printers. And then finally, we've launched the STEAM classroom over at Hillside, which is part of our kids program there. So they go and they work with Robin Farrell. Robin used to be a 3rd grade teacher, I think, and now the classroom teachers have the opportunity to go and be in the STEAM room. And I can tell you that the first day of school, I was there, and so of course, because it was a Tuesday, there was a group of kids who had STEAM first period, so they didn't get to really meet their teacher, but they got to go hang out with Robin. I was in the hallway when they walked out of the STEAM room. They were like, oh my God. They had to, I don't even know what they did. I can't remember now, but they were so energized about this experience. It was awesome. And I've seen it repeated. And she, different activities for different ages, which is pretty cool. So that is an update from me, and in a few minutes we're also going to hear from Lou, our high school principal, and Nora, who is the chair of our foreign language department, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about the biliteracy seal. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Tony. Before that, we have our public comment period. If anybody would like to speak, the podium's there. We are making a change. We are told by our lawyers that you do not have to state your address anymore, which I'm pleased about. You just have to state your name, and for our benefit, please just state if you're a resident of Hastings. So anybody for public comment? Okay. So we'll move on to the curriculum and instruction piece, and that's going to be a presentation by both?
Nora, I will introduce it. I'll just say this much. Usually, do want to comment on what Tony said before about the conversations, and I can speak for the high school as far as conversations between adults and students at the high school. I think his point is very well taken. What makes Hastings unique, and I can talk about Hastings High School, is that there's a level of camaraderie and trust between student and teacher in the halls of Hastings High School, which I venture you will not see in many buildings across the United States. It is a wonderful, wonderful place where kids trust the adults in the building to a level where sometimes we just don't want to hear it, but we hear it anyway. And I think Parker's shaking her head in that it's just a wonderful place. So Tony, thank you for noticing. It is what we strive for, and I think we do a really good job at it.
And not because we're standing here, but I think knowing what I know about building leadership and knowing what I understand about culture, I do think the research speaks to the fact that there is oftentimes one person in an organization that has the singular greatest influence, not sole influence, but the singular greatest influence. And I can say that the culture in our high school is really such a unique and welcoming and non-traditional, like in the best ways, kind of space, while still doing the traditional high school experience. And I have to commend you, Lou, for making that possible.
I have to come to more board meetings.
Scroll down on this.
Where are my colleagues when they get
There you go.
Because they won't believe you when you say it.
Get the tape.
Just to be clear, I said the same thing.
You have it on tape? Please burn me a copy.
Videotape. Am I not doing something right? I just need to get into it. Okay.
So while they're
Literacy.
getting ready, while Nora's getting ready, what we're going to talk about tonight is New York State back in April of 2016
And criteria for quality. Let's
officially
actually
voted
do this.
on
It's okay.
allowing students to
Right,
pursue
this one.
something they call the Seal of Biliteracy, which in essence is a seal on their diploma which certifies that they are, for lack of a better word, they are literate in multiple languages. For us, it would be English, obviously, and French and or Spanish.
And Latin. Latin too.
And Latin, I'm sorry. Nora is going to sort of present the work that we did as a committee. We didn't just jump into this just because it was something new that the state decided to offer. We looked at many things as to who would we offer this to, what would be the procedures for getting this, and would we be putting more stress on kids. And in those Nora will answer those questions for you. But I think we've done really pretty a yeoman's work in vetting it all out. And I think the last step here is to sort of let the board ask what questions they may have before we move forward. Our plan, if we get the board's blessing this evening, is to move it forward so that we hope to have students who will have the Seal of Biliteracy on their diploma this June.
This year.
That's our target. Parker,
Okay.
yes. This year. Yes. Okay, so without further ado, I think Nora's got the presentation for you. So Nora Bataki, who's the chair of our World Language Department.
Okay. As Lou said, we started doing our homework this year. The state came out in 2016. New York State officially adopted this program, the New York State Seal of Biliteracy. It's been adopted. Similar programs have been adopted by about 25 out of the 50 states, and other states are now considering it. It is essentially, it becomes a seal on the diploma and also a designation on a student's transcript. So to give you a little background, back in February, Janice Mateo Toledo and I, she's the coordinator of ENL, English as for New Learners, as a new language. We attended a BOCES workshop in which someone from the bilingual education department from the New York State Department came and did a presentation for us about it and how it's implemented and what it's all about. And so then to get a little bit more information to see who was implementing it in this area, I attended a conference at Hofstra of the Foreign Language Association of Chairpersons and Supervisors. And I got to see how other districts are doing it in our area. There aren't that many yet, so if we were to do this, it would kind of put us on the map as far as the Seal of Biliteracy goes. So after these things happen, one of the first steps, if you want to do it, is to form a committee. And so on our committee, we have to have administrators, guidance counselors, teachers. And so we have a committee, Lou is on the committee, Jeanette Coker from guidance. We have Peter Scotch, Sarah Walters, and Josh Blum representing the English department, Janice Mateo Toledo for English as a new language. And then Veronica Lehner, Latin French teacher, and I are representing the World Language Department. So we met once a month from about March on, February on actually, we met once a month and looked at what it takes for us to be able to implement this. So just to give you the purpose, the intent. The intent is to give students an opportunity to show proficiency in multiple languages. The intent is to value multilingual diversity in a community, to encourage language study. And for me as a world language teacher, right now we're really we're looking at a serious shortage of world language teachers. So I think that anything that we can do to encourage language study is really a real plus. It's a way, the intent is also to identify language skills that would potentially be attractive to employers. 21st century skills, multilingualism is considered really a fundamental to 21st century skills. And also it's a way of valuing both school and home language learning. Because we also have a population of students who are learning English as their world language and have proficiency in another language that they've never actually studied here. But this gives us a way of really valuing language wherever you've learned it, whether you've learned it at school or you've learned it at home. We want this seal of biliteracy says that is a valuable skill. Those are skills that we value. It really is, in essence, a statement of accomplishment. And our focus really, we want it to be to show that we value work already done. Our intent is not to put a lot of extra work on already very busy students. So we really thought a lot about this as a committee and came up with what we think is a good way of implementing it that would really help students do this without adding a lot of additional stress. It's not a graduation requirement, so it's totally voluntary, and it would be an option. The idea of students saying how much they like the choices that they have at Hastings High School, this would be a choice. This would provide a choice but would not be required of any student. What New York State has done, and I think New York State has done it in a very intelligent way. The state has provided an umbrella of criteria. And within that umbrella, under that umbrella, every district can kind of customize how the district wants to implement it. Still falling under their criteria, but really tailoring it to the particular district. So essentially what happens is that a student has to earn 3 points in English, whether it's their native language or it's their learned language, and 3 points in a world language, another language. Now those points can be earned in a number of ways. Actually, if I could ask you to open up the document, not this one, there's the other one that I opened.
This one?
No, the one criteria 4, yeah. So you don't have to read through the whole thing. But this shows you that to earn those points, there are options, different options. The points can be earned by achieving an 85 or higher in higher level language coursework. That would be like a level 4 honors or AP. It can be done through standardized tests that measure language proficiency. But the main way, the 2 out of 3 points, the main way those are earned is through a culminating project or portfolio. And so that's required in both English and the other world language. So what we decided to do was, as Lou had pointed out, we don't want seniors to have to do 2 separate things. So we really have designed a portfolio, a digital portfolio project that would allow students to earn their 2 credits for 2 of their points for English and 2 of their points for world language without having to do 2 separate things. Now, just to tell you what that digital portfolio, what that culminating project looks like. We've envisioned a digital portfolio. Actually, if you go to the other screen, that would be great.
Sure.
And if you click a little bit on the, this is just a
Which one do you want?
a model. So for example, what we're looking for.
Oh gosh, sorry. I don't know what that just did. I'm sorry. So yeah.
The portfolio would allow students to upload a lot of the work that they would be presenting to give evidence of their proficiency is work that they would already have done. There would be some extra work in terms of a reflective component, and also as at the very end, when they have their portfolio together, they would have to come before a panel of teachers, which will most likely be the biliteracy committee, to show that they have conversational proficiency in both English and their target language. So we've set it up that, they would have a mentor for the English part, a mentor for their word language. They would have a place to upload different kinds of artifacts that give evidence of their having accomplished interpretive reading, interpretive listening. We use the criteria of ACTFL, the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. Those are we're really essentially using, we will be using their rubrics, and we would plan to upload the rubrics so that students would know exactly, transparency. They would know exactly how they would be evaluated. So from our point of view, it would really, I think, enrich our language program, and it would be beneficial to students who would opt to do it. Again, it's not for everyone, but we would give every student that choice. It would provide something a little extra as far as their college applications, because they could then put that, they're working toward the seal of biliteracy. And it would also show that they have a valuable workplace skill, for the future. So that's where we're headed, hopefully, with your blessing. We hope to have your blessing for this. But we're quite excited, because I think it gives our really motivated language students, whether English is their native language or their new language, it gives students a chance to see that, we value the fact that they're putting all this time and effort into becoming multilingual. So that's my presentation.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Have you and Lou and the sort of engagement team that's been working on this since February talk through within across the high school how many students you would think would look to participate in?
Yeah, we're thinking about for at least initially maybe a dozen students to start out.
A dozen is wishful thinking. To be honest with you, I don't anticipate more than a handful.
Okay.
At the initial stage.
Okay.
The initial stage.
Okay.
I think organically, the way we're setting up the portfolio.
Yep.
Organically, as a junior and a senior, many of the assignments and many of the assignments and things that you're handing in for your teacher are going to become organically evidence and artifacts to be put into your portfolio.
Sure.
So for current seniors who would be their first year, they may have less. So
They would call upon their junior year.
It may be a little overwhelming, and it's something that
Right.
is new, but I think as we go on, I think we should, I would say probably a dozen to 15 students.
So then my follow-on question is, with the idea that each student has a mentor,
Yes.
sort of dimension the mentor need, and is there sufficient willingness? And I guess there's a second layer to that question. How much work do you envision, hours-wise, for the mentor per student?
At this point, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the only thing, because
yes.
I just, that would be the one thing that, that just kind of understanding.
Yeah.
Because we just had the total human capital resource constraint that will always exist, and just that we can, because it's a fantastic idea, and if you wind up getting 20 kids that love it,
Right. I think the idea of the mentor is really, it's really, and we really want students, because they're seniors, we really want them to take ownership.
Yeah, to do it. Yeah, that makes sense.
The mentor is really someone who's going to make sure that you're meeting your deadlines, is there to answer questions.
Yeah, okay.
And this kind of, when we actually go and check we go and check their work and pose questions on the reflective piece and answers, that's work that we can do during department meeting times.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not
We bring in
a
the whole
deeply
department to
intensive
help.
mentoring.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, we explored this in my former district, and because we had conversations around the mentors, what would that mean?
Sure.
Like, do they need release time? And it really is, so much of the work that the kids are compiling is part of their already embedded learning experiences, right? So it's not
Okay.
an add-on, and that mentor is more like a check-off, like to check that everything they need they have,
Yes.
and if they encounter a challenge, that mentor might be able to guide them or offer them a suggestion.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right, and I think, Tim, the importance of the Google site that was created
Yes.
is to streamline all of that, so that when students upload all of their work, the committee members can, on time that they can be home or free, can sort of review all of that.
Yeah.
And ask questions and pose questions, so it doesn't become something that, on Tuesdays from 9 to 12 is office hours for Seal Brothers. That's not going to,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
At the end, when the committee needs to sort of decide whether all of the criteria is met, that's pretty much the one time that I think the committee needs to be together. Otherwise, everything's going to be done in the digital platform.
Got it.
And I think even, in speaking to the state, typically, they're anticipating it's at, like a dozen would be like a lot, just in general, because of all the other types of diploma seals that kids can get and where their focal point is. So, sorry.
Okay.
So I-
Thank you.
I want to just thank you for all the work you put into this. And there was one thing you said that I especially noted and liked when you talked about how kids can do this, can be bilingual, biliterate, no matter where they learned it.
Exactly.
And I think
yeah.
that was just a little, I think that is really
Yeah.
a
I think
wonderful
especially
piece of this.
for our English, for our ENL students.
Right.
I think that, often it's as if their other language doesn't exist at school.
Right.
You know, I mean, and,
Yeah.
That's right.
And sometimes they come from languages that we don't
Exactly.
we don't teach.
Right.
And in fact, the committee allows for, if we have a student that wants to show proficiency in a language that we don't have expertise for here in the school, we can reach out to the community and bring someone in
Right.
to the committee who does have that expertise in the language.
Right.
So, I think really the state has thought this out quite well.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Nice.
Surprisingly,
I know.
surprisingly enough.
Yes, we've got John.
It's all things that are wrong.
Right.
Every once in a while, something. Look, for me, the reason why I think we want to pursue this, and I think many people have the same fear, is that we don't want to add something to a kid's
Right.
plate. And when we say something is a choice, that word choice sometimes is not really a choice for
Yeah.
kids. And especially when you're in a small community like ours, where everyone knows what everyone else is doing, we're always looking for that competitive edge.
Right.
But with that said, I think this is a way for kids to validate and for the adults to validate the hard work that kids put in to the languages. It's to say, you know what, you did a great job and you worked really, really hard, and someone needs to know that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this is for us. It's not, to me, it's not about the transcript. It's not about the college process. To me, it's about you worked really hard.
Right.
Many of these kids are kids who probably took 2 languages in addition to AP English and everything else. So these are kids who worked really hard, and it's your language learners who come in and really learn the English language. It's to say, you worked hard. And I think this is that little seal that, hey, look, when even today, I like when someone gives me a little certificate and says, you did a nice job. And I'm 50 years old, so I can only say,
We're going to remember that.
look, tonight was a perfect example. It's nice, somebody telling me I did a good job. And I think kids don't get that enough. And especially when they're seniors and they're all caught up in the college process. And then comes this anticlimactic, we know where we're going now, and then we have nothing left to really do in high school. This is still something that they have to shoot for at the end of the year.
And what's particularly, at least, in conversations that I've had around this, what's particularly nice about this is the nature of the portfolio and the process in itself, that it really mimics for kids, like, it's not a test score, right? It's not just about a test score. And it's really a process that they shape and they develop. And very rarely do you see state aid put something out that, in my opinion, that's like life ready, to be able to put a portfolio together of your work, to be able to present it, to be able to share it. I think it's a skill that goes beyond just this seal, which is wonderful. So thank you.
Well, I just want to say, Lou and Nora, first of all, we run a top-notch, you run a top-notch high school, And I just want to thank,
Next board meeting.
2 weeks, 2 weeks.
we're going to
You're not
play,
coming.
this one's going to play on WHOH constantly, okay? No, I just want to say, because, you guys could sit back and just ride Hastings High School the way it is, and I just want you to let you know the board's appreciation that you're always looking and seeing what can we do that's more for our kids, because there's no pressure to do it, so that you're doing it on your own, and just, keep finding ways to do this, to show off our kids, to thank our kids is great. I do have one question. I think I know the answer, but I saw one of the ways you can get points is by getting a 4 on the Spanish AP or on the language AP, but if you take it in your junior year. I know most of our students don't, and I'm not looking to push them to do it. Do you see any changes in the AP, in our Spanish or French progression?
Yeah, the problem, of course, and a lot of districts are finding this, that because, most students take the AP language in senior year, and those results don't come out till July, and they've already graduated in June. So we're actually looking at other exams that can be taken. Other proficiencies.
Like that one where our kids typically win bronze and silver, and I'm spacing on the name.
The national contest, they're not really, they're contests.
Okay.
But there is the American Council on Teaching of Foreign Languages, ACTFL, has an assessment exam. It's assessment of performance toward proficiency in language. It can be taken, it costs $20 to take it. It can be taken at any time of year. It can be retaken, and they will determine, and that exam will determine, have they reached that I-5 level, that high intermediate level. And so I think we'll probably go that route rather than using the AP exams, which really come out, the scores just come out too late.
No, that's great, and I hate to see that, to try to accelerate them even more, so that's a great answer. Well, it sounds wonderful.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have business items, which are primarily budget transfers. Maureen, I did have a question about one of the budget transfers. I saw almost all of them were to accommodate our new special education needs, but one was operations and maintenance, non-instructional, and I was just wondering what that was.
So, being we were in the process of negotiating the contract, typically, like, we budget, we just budget based upon, like, step
Sure.
increments and not knowing. So now that the contract's been finalized and we have all our hires and we transfer the money.
Just to accommodate the
Correct.
salaries
Yes.
based
Yep.
on the new contract. Okay, great.
Anytime you're in negotiations, you usually have that.
Sure. Okay, can I have a motion to approve business items under number 6A?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, the motion is passed. Next is the placement for CSE and CPSE. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second?
All in favor? Motion passed.
I have a question about that,
Oh, sure, go ahead.
if you don't mind. So if one of us sitting up here has a child with special needs, and I don't know what, like my son has special needs, he has an IEP, I could be potentially voting on him.
Never memorize his number.
Okay, well, I don't know it. So I guess my question is, am I...
Really good question. Well, I can tell you this,
don't know.
I have reached out to our lawyers because I find this one of the most difficult things we do, and because of confidentiality, which needs to be there. But we are voting to approve services for children, not knowing the children, not knowing of the tests, not knowing of the services, but we base this on our trust and respect of our special education department. But it's hard, especially given, what we're just coming out of, where we've been alerted that there may have been issues in the past. So I have alerted our attorneys that I want to sort of ask how we navigate that. I can add that to my question about what if somebody on the board has a child? Should they be given a heads up?
I would think the fact that legally, while I'm not going to participate in the teacher's contract, legally I'm allowed to.
You
by
are
state law.
allowed to.
I think by sort of parallel nature, I can't see why Christina wouldn't be able to vote on CSE's
I'll check just in case. I don't know. I don't know. Because I know that last year, when we were voting on an employee who we were privately employing, that the decision was made that I would recuse myself from that vote. So I'm not quite sure how it all shakes out.
Okay.
But, I mean, theoretically, you could recuse yourself from any votes, or, I mean,
Right.
as a precautionary measure, you
Right.
could say, I will abstain from all CSE, CPSE, but based on my previous experience, I don't think you have to.
Okay.
And if you do abstain from one vote,
Right.
then implicitly you're stating that your son is one of those, so that's also something to be mindful of. I'm just saying.
Right,
like, if
and I
you-
just said it
if
right
you-
now
Right,
anyways.
well, and not even that, but if you were to say, I'm not voting on this one,
Right.
then we know that David is one of those numbers down there. And so that's,
okay, right.
because that came up in my former district as a discussion point with one of the women who was on the board.
Okay, yeah.
But I think you are allowed to vote on it, because it has no financial gain for you, no implications, nothing like that. But we should check with the lawyer just to be safe.
Got it.
But good question, thank you. Next on the agenda is personnel items. I think we'll just do this as a consent agenda unless there's anything in particular, because I know we have time.
No, I will tell you that I am hoping to share with you all an appointment for the first grade class at Hillside. Erin Rayner is taking a leave. I did interview someone today, but it was not ready for today's agenda, so it would be retroactive on September 25th. But I only bring that up because Mary Kate McCabe, who is on here, was originally appointed as that first grade leave replacement, but when we added a class in kindergarten, she was moved over to that. And her salary changed because she did have credit years of service in other districts. So just to bring that to your attention.
Okay, so under personnel, we have, sorry, do we just have?
And we have a
We have
resignation.
amendments, we have resignations, and we have appointments, and we'll take them all as a consent
There's
agenda.
an addendum on there as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, and an addendum as well.
Just a last minute.
Did anybody have any comments or anything, or are we okay going by consent? Okay, can I have a motion to adopt all the personnel matters?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Next is approval of minutes from our last meeting, August 28th. May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
All in favor? Student report. Does our student have anything to report?
She's been very busy.
We had a great start of school. I know the seniors really enjoyed our first day of school parade through the school. And I think everything is off to a good start. We have our first student union meeting tomorrow morning. So
Any major issues on the student union docket?
no, I think it's more of an informational sort of beginning of the year meeting, but I'll make sure to find out if there are.
Is SU meeting on Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays now? Or do we not know?
Last year it was Thursdays, so I don't know if it's going to be Tuesdays or Thursdays this year. It might be moved to Tuesdays.
And Parker and I have talked about meeting with Elliot and any other board members who want to join about how to craft this role of our student board representative to make it most meaningful for the student and for the board. So we haven't set a date, but if anybody's interested, just let me know.
And Parker and her Hudsonette peers did an amazing job at the football game.
Thank you.
Really
Thank
impressive.
you.
My son was like, wow, how'd they do that with their
We worked all summer on it.
No, it was really wonderful, and it was really well done. So
And you were missing 5 girls, too.
Yes,
Which you
we
couldn't
were.
tell.
There was
Yeah.
a field hockey game conflict, and we had 4 alternates, but 5 people missing, so we had to change the dance because there was the one person missing, and it was. But hopefully for the next game we'll have it the way it was supposed to be. But it went very well on Saturday. We were very happy with it.
it did.
You guys did great.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Okay, old business, committees. So we've been trying to get our committees in order. Doug, do you have the latest version?
I do.
We approved the
It should be in the, it's attached, right, Judy? And so I think we want to just make sure, at least tonight, we do the board committees. I think we maybe want to talk about some of the other ones at a later meeting. But, so we've got probably a couple spots open on audit. I think, Eileen, you said that you would do that.
Now, audit is required during the day, correct?
It's been during the day.
It's usually, we start early morning, usually, but
And we're scheduled, the audit meeting is scheduled
There
for
is-
September 22nd, is that correct?
Actually, I had to move it because I realized I had sent a subsequent email. I forgot the school was closed that day. I mean, it
that's
wasn't
okay.
an issue for me, but it may have been, I mean, for other people, I didn't know if that would pose a conflict in terms of if people were celebrating. So I did ask them to move it to September 20th, and 9:30 or 10 o'clock, they'd be available to come.
And I will say, we have talked about adding a member of the public to that committee. So when we e-blast about that meeting, we'll add that. But if anybody is watching or in the audience who is interested in possibly being a community member of that meeting, please come, if you can, come to the September 20th meeting. These meetings are all open to the public. They're pursuant to the open meeting laws, and you can get a sense of what it is.
Lisa, sorry, if you would, is it just Eileen who's on? I'm just trying to keep notes.
Oh, no, we haven't gotten to filling it
sorry.
in.
Oh,
We were
sorry.
just talking about what
Well,
it is.
Eileen,
Tim's-
well, Lisa has your name down.
Okay.
Okay, there's one open spot. Now, I can do it, I'm not going to be around on the 20th, but.
Yeah, and I said I would do it, and then this multiple times during the day
Yeah.
issue does become a challenge. So I spoke a bit soon, and I would be grateful if.
I can do it, I just can't make the 20th.
Okay.
So, Doug, did you also put in, Donna had sent an email with the committee she wanted to be
Everything
on?
Donna sent is in here already.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So what else do we still need to?
So I think we can skip over facilities for now, is that right? And then policy is the only other one I think that we have to get now. So I've got Lisa and Donna on that, and.
Christina, you mentioned an interest in that.
I said I'd be interested, provided, I'm interested in a period, but also depending on the time of day. I think at the last
Well,
meeting.
we
was
could
said that
conform it
could
to
be
your
done
schedule.
After, school hours, if that's possible, I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, I mean.
When has it met in the past?
So it just matters what the time is that people can make it.
Okay.
Donna usually prefers it, she tries to do it on a day when she's not scheduled to be in the office.
I'm sorry, Donna usually,
Scheduled for a day she's not in the office.
Okay.
So, but if you want to do it in the afternoon, I would, to just work around it.
Okay.
The way that we're talking about it now pursuant to open meeting laws, and they're going to be open meetings, more than 3 people can come to these meetings. They'll have to be e-blasted in a place where other people can show up. I'm going to guess we're not going to get large crowds at these meetings, but nonetheless, people can come. So
In terms of board members, because I know we operated on one principle last year, but I've discussed that with the attorneys. The attorneys have said that if, say, we have 3 people on a policy committee meeting and say, Jody, you want to come, that you can come and absolutely participate because.
but as a citizen, not as a board member.
No, as a board member, she said there's almost like 2 bodies of law, but they both point to the fact that having a quorum is fine and it doesn't change anything that happens. That was the discussion with Stephanie.
Having a quorum
it's open.
means that you're having a board meeting.
Well, either way, here's what happens. If you're having a board meeting, we wouldn't be voting at a committee meeting anyway, because that's not what our committees do. Our committees make recommendations. What having a board meeting means and a quorum means is that we are subject to the open meetings laws.
Right.
But having a committee meeting of the board also means you're subject to the open meetings laws. So having that quorum there doesn't change what
does
happens.
not.
That's what Stephanie was explaining. So that if we have a quorum, meaning 4 of 7 of us, we can all participate freely.
Because even, let's say, Christina, Doug, and Lisa are 3 formally assigned, and you decide to join after you see the e-blast, and you technically make it a quorum, the e-blast is what covers it as an open, meeting. So it is fine to do that.
So if there's a committee you're interested on, but you're thinking, I can't make it all,
Right.
you're always
Go
welcome to
sometimes,
attend.
but
So something for consideration as we move forward. You'll see a couple changes here. I don't think we've officially spoken about these, right? These, like diesel as part of learning instruction.
Right.
We haven't officially.
We haven't really talked about that stuff.
No.
We haven't spoken about that. And so we may want to come back to that. That was Tony's suggestion as he thought about what would be optimal for the committee structures. And so we can talk about that. One question I did have is the liaisons, is this an accurate set, or they're missing some here? Are there any things that you don't see in this blue section at the bottom that you feel should be on the list? So Hillside, HHS, and Farragut are the PTSA meetings, right?
Right, and what we've done in the past, as I emailed, was we've usually had 2 board members who would be liaisons to each of the schools. And with the idea being that you would go to the liaison meeting.
So any thoughts on that?
Well, the only question I have is, do each of these groups understand that people from the board would be coming to their meetings? Like, that's what we used to only have a foundation liaison, because the idea was that we would go to listen to their board meetings. So whoever was the foundation liaison, you would go and sort of be there in case a question came up and just be able to know kind of what was being discussed at the board level meeting.
I don't know.
But PTSA and SEPTA, I don't know if that's really what they want right now. So, has anybody asked them?
Yeah, but I don't know that, has everybody agreed that it means you sit in on their executive board meetings, or you're just sort of a contact person,
My
somebody
understanding-
charged with a
the way
little
we used
more?
to set it up was that if you're going to be a liaison, you
Go
would
to the board
actually
meeting.
liaise with them at their board meetings. That's how you would find out kind of what was going on, that sort of, which is why SEPTA never, as far as I understood, because they felt there was a confidentiality, and PTSA also, I guess, had not done it before you were available to be on, act as a liaison last year. So that has morphed, and I'm just wondering if that's what we want it to be, or do we have some different expectation for a liaison to one group as opposed to a liaison to another group?
There's nothing wrong with, whoever's interested in being a liaison to the particular group, discussing with the group, what's the best model for that, and it may be different for HEF versus PTSA versus SEPTA versus Yellow Jackets Booster.
I guess one of my question, well, first of all, I question about whether we need to have a liaison to the Yellow Jackets Booster Club. I have a question about that, for one thing. Secondly, the PTSA and SEPTA will have regularly scheduled meetings with Tony, I guess, right?
Yes.
Like the president, vice president, or the executive officers. So I think we have to, do we also need, do they also want us to come to their executive board meetings? I don't know.
Well, we can reach out to the groups and find out if there is a need for a liaison and what role that would be, and we could visit that at the next board meeting.
I think like HEF doesn't regularly meet with Tony. I mean, I guess.
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, they might come in during the year to have a meeting, but it's not like that regular ongoing contact and scheduled meeting that PTSA and SEPTA should have.
So we can reach out to the groups and see if there's a need and what that would look like, and it may be different from model to
So
model.
then what are the, I'm confused, what are the other liaisons for Hillside, Farragut, and the high school?
It's-
That's separate from PTSA?
Yes.
Yes, that's going to the liaison meeting,
Yeah.
Okay.
so that you,
So it's a,
I think that was put there to make sure that the board is aware of everything that's going on at these liaison meetings, and they
Right.
do so by charging, you're responsible for this,
Right.
so that.
And
that
who's
all-
attending those liaison meetings?
Us. So like,
Well, they're
you
parent
would take
meetings.
the high
Those are
school,
the
and you go to
parent
the high
meetings.
school liaison.
so it's like, it's the local.
And you go meet with Lou?
But it's the local PTSA.
No, it's the word
so it's like
liaison
Oh,
that's
the
causing the
local,
problem.
So it's school level PTSA
One
meetings.
conversation at a
and
time.
then, and then school level, so this is my understanding, so school level PTSA meetings, and the two of us go to those school level, and generally it's been.
but do you
the
know who
school
goes
you
to the
have
school level liaison meeting, is the question.
Do I know who
Yeah.
goes to school level?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the PTS, the
Right.
parents.
Yeah, parents.
Right,
Parents that are
So
engaged in that.
Then
Yeah.
as board members, you then
Yeah.
go and
Right,
sit at that
okay.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
School
okay,
VPs.
okay. Gotcha.
But you don't have to do anything per se, just be there.
No, you're just there, you're just there,
have
you're
a-
just there to, as
So
things
you're
come
not
up.
attending the pre-planning
No,
liaison?
no, no,
meeting?
no, no. You're just there
going the
to
You're just going?
hear about what
Okay.
the agenda
That's
and what's
all I
going
wanted
on in the
clarification.
school.
That's
Yeah.
important.
Thank you.
That's where.
Where's PTSA?
The action happens.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yes.
Share information
Yeah,
here.
we just share information here.
If there's
with the
something
topics that
specific.
came up.
Right.
So
Right.
Yeah.
everyone's, there's I think a way to just keep information flowing.
And as a liaison, though, I'm just curious, so let's say someone goes to the Hillside meeting, if a question comes up at that meeting, would that person be responsible to let's say someone in the general meeting asks a question that is, board related, would the board liaison bring that back to the board? Is that how that works?
Well, they can, if they know the answer.
could
they can
answer.
give the
Well, let's say they don't know the answer. Let's
Yeah.
say, okay, all right.
And I think they raise it to the whole board probably.
Right.
Time,
Yeah,
time.
okay, sorry.
Okay, just to keep us moving here, so we can, why don't I send this around, we'll talk about it. Does anyone have, on the white boxes, the district committees, obviously realizing that, Tony's going to walk us through at a later time, just the unpacking of
Right.
learning and instruction.
I could tell you a couple. One, the theater arts group is starting to move, so
Right.
they're ready to go. I know.
Moving, yeah.
They're
Yeah, they're
moving.
moving to meet. They're moving, and they're going to do something. I'm not quite sure about student activities, so I don't.
But that
kinda have
doesn't start yet till after they
Okay.
get going.
Oh, there you go. She talked about that. Special Ed Council, Laura and Tesfa are working to figure out what that looks like, and so they have not put that out to anyone. Health and safety is building level, but also district-wide, and Maureen can kind of take us through that. At some point, that's not really going to change, though, from the
Right,
past.
but that's
Yeah, it
definitely a
would be good to
daytime
have a-
meeting.
Well, I try to work it around people's schedules, but it tends to end up working for most people during the day because there's a lot of teachers and the assistant principals and so it's either that or very close to the end of the day.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
2:45 it would start. But we do need to kind of get somebody on that, because I do schedule those out, and typically there's 4, you'll be on it, I think?
So let's do this.
So Eileen just said she would do that, yeah.
Just everyone email what they want.
Yeah.
There's 18 people.
We'll work it out.
They all want, we'll work it out. I wonder if it's
Very
worth,
full
I wonder if it's worth just maybe, since we're here, just unpacking that learning instruction a little bit, to just talk about that.
So what I would say is, quite honestly, we as a leadership team, and, Lou's here, we haven't had much time together yet to start having that conversation, to figure out exactly what we want our focal point to be. And so in my initial recommendation to tuck, let's say, diesel under that and technology, whatever, is with the intent of trying to keep our focus not necessarily singular, but to try to focus on something that we can unpack over the course of the year. That may not stay. We may need to separate diesel out, and it may need, not to say that we don't have diesel, but if that's our focus this year, then can we tuck it under curriculum instruction? But we are meeting tomorrow as a team, and we're going to be meeting again in 2 weeks. So one of our agenda items is to kind of figure this out, and also be mindful of how the priorities that we kind of established as a team, each individual leader and myself, and we dovetailed those, but how those link to some of our instruction goals for the year. So I don't have an answer for you, but what I can tell you is that it is something that we need to figure out internally before I can make a recommendation to the board.
Okay, so if you're interested in that, let me know, I guess. Like last year, we talked about having everyone do learning and curriculum, right? So that's another option. If you want to go, go.
And if it turns out that we are going to have like focal points that, let's say we're going to have 3 meetings on this, 3 meetings on that, then if different people want to come for different things, we're talking about technology for the next 3 months. You're really interested in that, or whatever. We're talking about diesel for the next, diversity-related issues. That's the focal point, and it may go like that. I don't know, or not. That may not be feasible.
It's a 2-week.
Okay, I think we're good.
So we should fill them in, because there are liaison meetings that are starting, so we should be sure to, maybe this week.
We'll turn it, so basically turn it around to
Yeah,
tomorrow.
so send back within 48 hours.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you don't, you will be assigned.
Yes, nice, I like it.
So, do you want one from each section? Do you want first choice, second choice? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't want to put a lot of rules around it.
Okay.
You'll circle back if stuff's still short.
Okay.
If we're short.
Something's full,
okay.
but you really want to do it, communicate.
I'm flexible.
And Tim already agreed to be the BOCES South.
Yes, I'm already getting emails.
Yeah, oh, have you?
From BOCES, yeah.
Nice.
Which I was kind of like, first I was like, what? It's like, oh, okay.
So we do have that in there.
Thank you.
I thought you were just really passionate about it.
That email form had to be filled in.
Unsubscribe, did you look for that button at the bottom?
I think we can keep moving.
Moving along, okay. The
Right.
next item is the goalpost. Just to give the 60-second synopsis of where we are, one of our fields at Upper Burke, our game field, has football goalposts on them, but the field is being used as a soccer game field. Jesse Merchant filled out the game and practice field for the year. It won't be used for football. We've had, I think, 4 families talk to us that it's an eyesore, and while they're supportive of the goalposts if we're going to use them as goalposts, if we're not, they would prefer to see them taken down. At our last meeting, we discussed some financial stuff and some different ideas. We talked about the cost to bring them down. We wondered about the cost to replant one of them on the practice field, which is at a lower elevation, which would not offend the neighbors as much. We talked about the fact that we have a portable goalpost, and should we ever need to use that soccer game field as a football game field, we could purchase one more, so we inquired about the price of that. We talked about the idea of taking them down and possibly storing them, so we were supposed to get information on all this. And then, in the interim, we had a few more communications. One was from a family who pointed out a potential, what sounded like a health risk. I can't really opine on it, but because the net and the football post are so close, they were fearful that a soccer goalie could either whack his or her head, or a ball could ricochet. I actually went to look at it, and I saw that there's a sort of a metal grid where a cleat could get caught. And there was one other thing that came up, and I'm just forgetting what it was.
It related to safety, or I know we also had Peekskill potentially.
Oh, that was the other point,
Okay.
yes, that we may actually have a district that might be interested in taking them off our hands. So with all that, I'm going to turn to you and ask if you have a recommendation for us or answers to any of the questions. I don't, I know it's quite a bit.
No, so, I mean, and that's it, that's where we're at. So they are still there. What we do know is, from Section 1, we are allowed to use portable goalposts if we needed them for a real football game, or obviously for practice, in which we already have one. We don't have anywhere to store the goalposts. If we are to take them down, we have nowhere to store them, like, internally. We would actually end up storing them by the Burke Field, if we were to take them down to keep them. In terms of the cost, to remove them, it was about $3,500. In order to remove and replant, it was closer to about $8,500 plus the $3,000, so let's say almost $11,000. And now there is this added sort of peak skill interest, which unfortunately we could not confirm today because we couldn't get Adam. So Adam is the athletic director there. Adam, our former athletic director, is the athletic director in Peekskill. We were not able to get him on the phone today, but they did express interest, partly because I think Adam knows what they are and the condition.
Interest in buying or just receiving?
So that's what we did not get clarification on, because as I was mentioning, if Peekskill does express interest, then we need to clarify: are they buying them? Are they paying for them to be removed? Are they paying for them to be carted over there? Because it's also going to cost money to get them. I don't even know how you get them. They're big. So it's a matter of that logistical information. Unfortunately, I do not have, and I don't even have 100% confirmation that they want them. I know that unfortunately Jesse and Adam have been playing phone tag today, and so we were not able to get confirmation before the end of the day. And I just want to share one last thing. As Jesse shared with me, I don't know, today or maybe Friday, the goalpost behind the soccer nets is not an uncommon thing. He shared in other playing fields, it's not uncommon to see that because they don't have multiple fields as an option. And if safety is a big concern, you could actually move the nets a little bit and it would not necessarily be an issue. So he was just saying that wasn't necessarily that's not atypical to see that.
Actually, I think we have that at Reynolds Field, right? We have goalposts and soccer nets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know we have goalposts.
Soccer pitches are a variable length, so you have flexibility. It isn't like it has to be 100 yards.
Right, and that was what Jesse communicated. Yeah, but that being said, this is where we stand. So I don't unfortunately have the information around peak skill, which I know would probably have been sort of the determining factor, maybe on some level, but that's where we stand. The cost of removal stays the same. If we were to keep them, we don't really have anywhere to store them where they would not be visible for us internally. And I know at our last meeting, Tim, you had mentioned, maybe the water.
Yeah,
I don't know about that situation. No. I know we don't have that option necessarily. But if Peekskill does have interest, then there would have to be some sort of negotiation between us and them. What do they have interest in? Just like you said, just taking them or buying them? And then who pays for the removal and who pays for the carting and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
My other cost question is, should the district determine that, okay, they come down, removal, peak skill, whatever that cost is, as an aside, the portable goalposts, how much would they cost?
So we already have one.
Right.
We have one?
Right.
Okay.
And truth be told, we don't anticipate needing to buy a second one because the plan is not to use that field anyway.
Okay, so we have what we need.
For right now, for this season, we definitely have what we need. I don't remember, I'm not going to lie, I don't remember the cost of the portable goalposts. I want to say it was like, no, I really don't, I'm not going to throw out a number, I could be totally wrong. But it wasn't some like ridiculous we already have one.
It's not like the numbers that we're talking about.
It's not like $25,000. It was like...
I saw them. They don't look very expensive.
They're not. They're like basically an H.
Cheesy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an H on wheels.
Okay.
A wide H. Really? No, isn't it? This is bad. Sorry, I don't know. The metal one. It's not nice. It's not nice looking. But it's regulation. So
it's regulation.
Legally, we can use it. That's it. So.
And that came up because we were talking about if a series of many contingencies happened. Reynolds gets flooded. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
We needed to use these. That was saying that we could transform it into a football field by using portable goalposts.
Right. Okay.
That's how that discussion came up.
All right.
So I hate to keep putting this off.
Well, I do too.
I think they're a third or fourth.
But I'm not necessarily saying you have to put it off. I don't have that information for sure about peak skill, and I'm guessing you want that information. But if you don't, then certainly a vote could happen now. But all the facts as they stand, you have. We are not. Jesse, as our athletic director, is not recommending use of that field for football. We know how much it costs to remove them. but the other variables are Peekskill, and we don't have somewhere to store them. So if they come down, we're going to have to send them
There.
somewhere. But we don't want to just leave them there. Well, I mean, we could, and we may have to initially, but, so,
Well, where do they go?
that part of it.
And what does that cost?
Well, yeah, we didn't get,
Right, like where they come down, where do they?
we didn't get.
Well, because when we inquired about having them removed,
Yeah.
the implication was, oh, so you want them removed, so you can hold on to them just in case you need them later on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was never like, so removal, carting off, and disposal of, and I'm not even quite sure what that cost would be, quite honestly. So to that point, we would need.
I also feel that I didn't really get a good answer from Jesse about the need to rest grass fields and how he rotates resting fields into the next 3 or 4 years, so that we're maybe fine for this year. And I understand that the soccer guys like Burke and the football guys like Reynolds, but if at some point we don't want to repeat the kind of fields that we've had in the past, you have to care for them differently. And I don't want to preclude our ability to actually maintain these fields that we've spent so much money to build and are proud of now. I mean, I really think that that's still an underlying issue for me in terms of making this less of a multi-use field. So, I mean, when I asked him that last meeting, he said he hadn't thought, he hadn't worked that through with scheduling.
Are you bothered by using portable goalposts if that should happen?
I don't know why you wouldn't just leave the ones that are there. I don't see why we spend more money now and without having an idea of what we're going to have to do down the road. I think it needs to be analyzed better, and I don't think it has been.
Yeah, I'm going to just sort of work off of that, which is, I think it's a reasonable question. I think it's, Jesse now has the responsibility of athletic director, put together just a plan of how we're going to satisfy all the team needs and with no resting. And I think it's just it's a simple request. And I don't know what the answer is. The answer might come back at, hey, listen, we think between the practice facility that now exists where football can practice on that shortened field, that's sufficient. So, but I do think that he should spend the time and just put something together for the board so that we have it on record and say, yeah, you as the athletic director, you were in this post, you felt that this was completely acceptable. So that's one. So we can ask to do that. Second thing is just with, we have the cost of taking it down. I think in the interest of total cost, when it goes down, are we voting on it just sits on its side? Or are we voting on it goes somewhere? And if it goes somewhere, where's it going? What's that cost? Right? Like, that's not, it is a big piece of metal that's got to go somewhere. Can it be recycled? You know what I mean? Like, what happens to it? That's one. And then also, what is this other cost of the second goalpost, of a temporary goalpost? Where I think it's just in order to, after Jesse opines and says, this is no problem, we have the field space, one. Then, when we're making a vote on this and a final binding vote, which way we go on it, we say these are all of the fully loaded costs to the best of our ability. With that, we make a decision. In the interim, if Peekskill shows up and says, we want these, we're not really paying for them, I won't even opine on that. If a negotiation can be made with Peekskill where they take them from us, and alternatively, we have an option B to vote on at our next meeting, which is we're voting on Peekskill taking them and our expenditure or ready and willingness to spend for a second mobile goalpost. But I just want a concrete thing to vote on. Is really it. And then just to resolve this and move on.
Can you give Jesse the charge then for our next meeting to have all that data, the cost of the portable goalposts, hopefully finish whatever negotiation is happening with Peekskill if it happens, the cost of carting them away and where would they go to, that would be great.
And just a concrete view from him that resting is not necessary. Or
his opinion on
his opinion.
Or his plan for how he is going to rest. I think resting, well, I understood that resting was necessary when we put the fields in.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I mean, you probably remember better.
That was one of the
Eileen.
issues about having grass fields, is you need to rest.
That was the whole reason we didn't.
We have in the past when we were going through these bond projects, we hired a professional to come in and take a look at the fields, tell us what we need to do to make them better. And resting is one of those things that you need to do to bring the field back. I mean, you just can't, and when they get overused the way that we overuse the fields, you end up with concrete pitches and really hazardous conditions for all your players.
I think, so let's ask him for as best he can do, a multi-year field rotation schedule, if he, to the extent he can predict it now.
And this is an assumption, but I just want to be really clear, when Jesse does this analysis, that he's consulting with buildings and grounds.
Well, that's what I was going to say. He's going to
Okay.
need Joe and he's going to need Terry,
Okay.
because to be honest with you, they're the ones,
Yeah.
which I was going to just tell them,
Okay.
because they make
I
the
just
calls
wanna
on the
be
fields,
crystal
not
clear on that.
Jesse. The use, Jesse doesn't decide. No, they decide to close the fields, really Terry, because he's the one who maintains them and,
Right.
aerates them and knows the condition of them every day. So he works, they work very closely together anyway,
Great.
so I
Thank
think,
you.
no problem.
I do want to follow up on one thing that Lisa Heinlein raised at the last meeting, and that was the debris that's at the Burke. I did walk there, and there was quite a bit of it. So I guess, do we have any estimate of a timeline on which that would be cleaned up?
I know that Joe started to, there were some benches and things that were removed during construction that either needed to be gotten rid of or put back in place. And then there were a bunch of soccer goals that are owned by ASO. So I know he's been trying to reach out to them because they're not ours, but they
There's
just,
one that actually has like vines.
no, and I know we
going
should
through
just get rid of them. I mean, I guess it was just that because they weren't ours, he wasn't. And then in looking at them, he agrees that some of them may not be in the best condition, but he just wanted, if they're fine with us either coming over and deciding to get rid of some, we'll take care of that for them.
Maureen, can does that also include the broken glass and the other stuff that's...
Yeah, I know that. and
They
it-
did a lot of work around
Yeah.
that, I know, because I spoke to Terry, and he told me that he was up there. Certainly, there were, not competing, but there were a lot of other things going on with the opening of schools. But I do know that, I can't say that, I know for certain that it's totally cleared out of all glass, but I know it was brought to their attention. I know that they, at the very least, have started to address it. And so that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, any more comments on goalposts or the Burke? Okay, next is school-related meeting topics and work sessions.
So we had talked about having our leadership team be part of board meetings in the future. And as an example tonight, where Lou and Nora came by to talk about the biliteracy seal, a little different in so much as it was an overview. But I was wondering if we could clarify for everyone, well, if we can establish what we want to see as a board, what you want to see as a board, and how we can coordinate that with the leadership team. For example, we want BLT updates to happen at some point in the near future. Do we want that to happen in the way that it's been done in the past, where everyone comes one night and does their thing, or do we want to spotlight a different school each time, and have each school have their own night? We want to, again, some of the things that have come up, my understanding is the board would like some sense of how the literacy work is going at Hillside and what that looks like. So we would want Amy here with, whoever she chooses to bring with her. Potentially some work around the ruler program that's being implemented at the middle school, having Gail come and update us around that. So things of that nature. But if we could potentially, either I will come up with a mock schedule and send it to you all, or you tell me exactly what you want to see, so we can, put it together. That's all. Only so I can give everyone enough heads up to say, hey, we need you to come on November, blah, 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 or whatever.
Can I make a suggestion? I think it would make sense because you also know which meetings have to be the budget kind of meetings and things
Sure.
like that. So if you want to break out the ones that you know have to happen, the ones that you just mentioned, the BLTs we also have to have
Yeah,
come. So
right.
If there are a lot of topics, then that may answer the question about whether they do it on different nights.
Sure, okay.
They do it all at once. And maybe they have an opinion too, the principals.
Well, the one thing we talked about last year, I think Tim brought it up, which I thought was a good idea when he brought it up, was having something in the beginning and the end of the year, if it's possible. I know the end gets tight with the budget and stuff, but there was the idea of, here's what we're going to do, and then here's how we did, right? Which was, I think, a pretty classic kind of check-in, which could bookend some of the conversations from the building leadership teams, if possible. So, and that's one thing to consider, to see if we can make it work. I don't know.
Yeah.
Talking about it in terms of the BLT?
Yeah, remember, it was during a conversation, we were talking about planning and that
Okay.
every school had a strategic plan, and we realized we hadn't seen some of them,
Yeah.
and it would
But
be
that's a
good.
little different.
But the
than
BLT is different from a strategic plan. The BLT usually has a topic or two that they're focus on
Well, so,
each year.
whatever it was topically the big things that the schools were working on.
Okay.
Come and share them and share how you do it.
It's probably
That's more
BLT.
like a principal report.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's effectively, principal's report, we're starting probably a little bit late now, but, ultimately, we try to get the 3 of them in before the end of October, and then in June, early June, do a quick follow-up on those topics.
Okay, so that would be different than potentially though spotlighting, if Gail were to come here and talk as part of her BLT presentation, incorporate the ruler piece, just so I'm understanding, then you would hope that she would come back again in, I don't know, May or June to talk about how it went.
How it went,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. sorry.
If somebody was to come back, though, and what they were talking about is somehow tied into the budget, I think I would want a report back prior to, and I think the community would as well, prior to a vote on the budget.
no,
You know what I mean?
yeah, fair point.
So not like June.
No.
But, you know what I mean?
Maybe March.
Earlier than June.
Yeah, maybe March.
Yeah,
or
maybe March.
Maybe even sooner, I don't know.
Yeah.
And, I mean, yeah, it's something,
Although some of that comes.
we have a lot to talk about tomorrow.
But some of that comes into just their budget request that we go through too with them, right?
Right.
Like when they may be talking about, like maybe Gail would be talking about a program going on in middle school and they'd be requesting money, more
Yeah, I
money for that
suppose-
or for professional development, right? So it comes up in that
I guess so.
context too.
Yeah, it doesn't become the exclusive time when a particular topic is discussed, I guess, to...
And we also talked about those conversations being more work session-y, not a formal presentation with like PowerPoints and just really sit down and talk. So this is where we're at, this is, I'm going to use biliteracy seal only because we talked about it tonight, but here, Lou might come back in a few months. This is how we've done this. So many kids, are going through the process. This is the challenges we encountered or whatever, so that it's more of a discussion, right, than it is let me show you all the beautiful slides.
We
Even if
talked
it-
about that last year.
I'm sorry, even if it's not connected, and I understand it's really good points, I would just prefer it not to be in June.
No, I don't
Yeah.
disagree.
I just feel like June is
Yeah.
just so overloaded for,
Yeah.
administrators and teachers and students. that-
And listen, if we have to parcel it out, if it's something
Yeah.
that has no budgetary implications, and there is, maybe potentially be leading into next year, again, that does not cost, then maybe we
That's a
could
different
wait till May or
story,
June.
right.
if we
Yeah,
right.
maybe it's just,
Yeah.
October and April.
Yeah. I
And
just
then
don't
you
wanna
have a
overload.
6-month spread.
I just have a preference for not overloading June. I just think it's just too much.
I agree, no, I agree, and there's a lot going on in June. I don't have an issue with that. We can, I'm adding it to the agenda now for tomorrow.
Anything else on this topic?
We're not leaving tomorrow's meeting, ever. Sorry.
So the next item we have is board goals, but there was some concern in our executive session about a desire to reconvene in executive session and the concerns about staying too late at a board meeting. I will make a suggestion that we also do have a board retreat scheduled for October 5th,
We do have,
right? I think it's October 5th?
it is October 4th.
October 4th, which could also
Wednesday.
provide a venue for that discussion. But I leave it, should we continue and do board goals? Or are people too concerned? I mean, I'm fine staying and doing board goals. I don't know how anybody else feels.
I'm sorry, you're fine.
Staying and, keeping this discussion going and discussing our last agenda item, but I know some people had talked about their concerns around time and the desire to go back into executive session. But again, I don't know, I throw out the October 4th date, which might be, it's a retreat, which is a good environment, but again, I'll go with whatever you all want to do.
I would opt for going back into executive session.
Should we go around the room and see what people want?
Of any preference.
I would go into executive session.
I'd go back to executive session.
I think that pretty well seals it.
In the interest of time, I mean, Tim was pretty clear
Yeah.
about 10
Yeah.
o'clock ending time,
Yeah,
so.
let's do.
Okay, is there any problem, I know people have come to attend our meeting. Does anybody here in particular, wanted to hear about board goals if we put that off to the next meeting? Okay. All right, so I think at this point then, we'll make a motion. I'll ask.
Right, do you want it to the September 25th meeting or October? You mentioned both.
No, that was for September 23rd. September 25th, you'll put this board goals.
Board goals, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
It's October 4th.
October 4th is a
First
retreat.
Wednesday in
Sorry.
October.
I checked it with all of you.
At 5 o'clock.
You said yes. I have the email.
Okay, so with that, can I have a motion to enter executive session?
Second public.
No,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Second public comment. I'm so sorry. And you still don't have to state your address.
I just have like 3. Do I have to?
Yeah.
It's with the TV thing. I'm sorry.
So Lisa Headline. So just 2 things, just from listening to the conversation tonight. One is the newly appointed athletic director came to this meeting last time and said the field at Reynolds was created for football. The type of grass and the length of grass is for football. The grass at the Burke, the type of grass and the length of grass was created for soccer and lacrosse. So it doesn't make sense that the fields are interchangeable. What the kids want aside, even though they express their opinion, is that the fields were created for different sports. And I think that's a really important point. And I do remember going to the soccer game last year where the boys were playing on the football field. It was a sectionals game. They almost lost. They won in like double overtime by 1 point. They almost lost because the grass is long there and the ball moves very slowly, and they hated it because they couldn't play their game because they play on shorter grass. So what a shame that would be if the soccer boys had to play on the football grass that is for football games. Our team, as you know, went on to win the state championship because I don't think they had to play other games on that field. But that's not the field that was created for soccer, and he said that. So I don't think you can ignore that point. The soccer team is not all of a sudden going to start playing full-time on that field. So that's one thing. And then the second thing, just this abstract concept of resting a field. I don't really know what anyone is talking about. If you have football come off Reynolds and play on the Burke, so then you're just going to have overusage on the 2 fields that are at the Burke estate. So you're going to have a football team playing on the Burke, you're going to have, all the girls' soccer teams playing on the Burke, the boys' soccer teams playing on the Burke. You're going to have an extra team playing down on the Burke. So those fields are going to get more torn up just because for 1 season, no one is going to play football on Reynolds. It just doesn't even make sense. It's like, it sounds so nice, and this concept of resting a field, but I think when anyone actually thinks about what that means, it makes no sense because you're just going to overuse the other 2 fields. So for 1 season, Reynolds isn't used. So once again, I just think that football is never going to be played on the Burke estate because when you think it through, it's just never going to happen. It's just never going to happen. The football kids are practicing on the practice field down at the Burke. That's where they should be. It's a practice field. But I don't think there's ever going to be games on the Burke estate because that's what that field, it was not created for football. So those are my 2 points. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And I think we'll ask Jesse to specifically address those points. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carmen New, and I'm a resident of Hastings. I've enjoyed hearing. I rarely come to the school board meetings because my children, all graduates of the Hastings School, are long gone, but I still have the community deeply in my heart. And I think you all have done a great job so far. I am a neighbor, an adjacent neighbor to the Burke Estate Fields, and I agree with Mrs. Heinlein's points about the grass and the posts and so on and so forth. But I also wanted to tell the school board that I'm grateful that they have brought up the fact that the field has to be cleaned of litter and stuff. It's been like that way too long. I have made many calls to the athletic department. And to tell you the truth, they've been very wonderful, and they pick up the things that needed to be picked up and cleaned up. But I urge you not to forget about that, because there's glass, there's metal. People walk all the time back there. And the fields are wonderful, but you have to respect the environments of the field as well. And that includes the neighbors and the community. Those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Any other public comments? Okay, so with that, can I have a motion to re-enter executive session? And a second, please?
Second.
All in favor? All right, I'm sorry, we have to ask you to excuse the room now.